Hey all. So I just wanted to share an experience with a book that I purchased for my daughter from their school book fair just a few weeks ago. My daughter is in kindergarten, and so I went to their school book fair probably about 3 weeks ago. And I let her pick out a book. I let my other kids pick out books too. And the book that we decided on is this book called Itty Bitty Kitty-Corn. It looks adorable. It looks harmless. I mean, we both love cats. We love the color pink. We love things that are fuzzy, and we love unicorns. I mean, that's literally like my daughter to a T. So, of course, she was going to be immediately drawn to this book, which I think was the goal. So we got the book, and I put it on the counter, and it got buried in some things, so I completely forgot about it until I was clearing off this pile of stuff yesterday, and I realized that we had never read this book. So when I was putting my daughter to bed last night, she wanted me to read her a story, and I said, we never got to read this book. Let's read this one. And she was really, really excited. So we started reading it, and I don't go into reading kids' books with the idea that there's an agenda. I don't automatically assume that there's something in there or an idea in there that I'm going to have questions about. Like, I would like to think that I could just read my kids a story and not worry that there's going to be something in there that is going to raise red flags for me as a parent. So we started reading the book, and it didn't take very long for me to be like, wait a second. So we're reading this book, and it starts out, and Kitty thinks she might be a unicorn. A horn sits atop her fuzzy head, pointing up, up, up to the sky. She feels so perfectly unicorny. Look at me, says Kitty. So she's sitting right here, and the reflection she sees in the mirror is this unicorn. But her friends say, you're not a unicorn. You're curled up like a cat. So she decides to go back. She says Kitty stands tall. She prances on her paws. Her pod-clawed unicorn hooves. She gallops on her eensy-weensy unicorn legs. Look at me, says Kitty. So she thinks if she's doing all these things, her friends are finally going to see her as a unicorn. And they say, nope, you're still not a unicorn. You have a stubby tail. So Kitty closes her eyes. She concentrates, and poof, her tail puffs up fat. Look at me, says Kitty. So she thinks that this is going to be the moment when her friends see her as a unicorn. And her friends say, you're never going to be a unicorn. You meow in your sleep. So she works on her neigh. She starts to neigh and neigh and neigh, and her friends say, you're a cat. And that's that. So still, Kitty's unicorn heart beats harder. She lifts her front hoof and sweeps her magnificent tail. The sun is low. The shadows are long. At last she looks exactly how she feels. Ha! Look at me now, yells Kitty. And, she's got this shadow, and her extended shadow shows her as a unicorn, and she's like, her friends are finally going to see me. And her friends are like, nope, you're still a cat, essentially. But halfway through the story, this unicorn, this real unicorn actually comes in, and it says, the unicorn brandishes his horn. He sweeps his magnificent tail. He neighs a mighty neigh. Suddenly, Kitty feels no bigger than a ball of lint, and she crawls sadly away. And the unicorn says, pardon me. Yes, squeaks Kitty. I so admire your fuzzy ears and silver whiskers, says Unicorn. You do, says Kitty, and I wondered. Unicorn looks right and left. Did you know? And he goes, did you know? Did you know? Did you know, says Unicorn, that I'm a kitty corn? So now we've got this unicorn with pink fuzzy ears. And Kitty gasps. Her tiny tail twitches with joy. Yes, says Kitty, I see that now. You are a kitty corn. You are fuzzy. You are a fuzzy, furry, adorable kitty corn. Unicorn nods. I knew that another kitty corn like you would see. Yes, says Kitty, I see you. Kitty and Unicorn are both kitty corns. Kitty trots on her soft tea paws, and Unicorn pads on his huge golden hooves. Sorry. They both like to toss their manes and brandish their horns. They both like to scamper after bumblebees and stretch out on a patch of grass. And when the sun is low, their shadows merge till you can no longer tell one from the other. So because they like to do all of these things together, they have all of these similar interests, that they are essentially the same. And it was actually really funny when I was reading this to my 6-year-old. You know, I don't feel like she's gonna catch the underlying tones of this book, but when this picture came up, did you know, says unicorn, that I'm a kitty-corn, and has this unicorn with pink ears. She's like, but Mom, that's just a unicorn with pink ears. I just laughed. I'm like, you're right, it is. So ultimately, I mean, it's a cute book. And, you know, there's ideas about just accepting people for who they are and just being friends with people. But I think, you know, which I have no problem with, like, be loving, be kind. That is what I teach my kids. Be loving and kind no matter what. Like, I don't ever want to hear about anybody bullying anybody else. If you see a kid that's being bullied or picked on, please be the first one to stand up for them, because I was that kid in school that was bullied relentlessly. I remember specifically in like 4th grade, there was this group that just targeted my brother and I, and would just like follow us home and just made our lives miserable. So I know what it's like to be that kid. So I teach my kids, like, you be the first one to stand up. You be the first one to, you know, include somebody that feels left out. So, you know, I have no problem with those ideas. It's this idea that they're putting out there that you can be something completely different than how you were born. And this, you know, with everything else that has come out about this parental rights bill, and assuming, you know, that parents that don't want this ideology taught in classroom, it just means that they hate transgender kids. When I read this book, it's just on top of everything else. And so I wanted to, you know, I really did think, like, am I overthinking this? Am I, you know, just reading too much into it? And you can tell me if I am, but I did go and look up the authors. I don't know if you can see their names. I can't pronounce, I'm sorry, Lueyen, Pham. I apologize for not being able to pronounce that. And Shannon, Hale. Now, Miss Pham, I did not find a whole lot on her, but Shannon, Hale, pretty much, you know, when I did look at her social media, she had everything on there that I assumed she would. You know, transgender women are women, transgender men are men, and just wanting to put these ideas in children's education. And, you know, anybody that disagrees with having transgender or gender ideology taught to their young children is a transphobe. So pretty much everything, you know, that I assumed were the belief system of these authors, I was correct on. So, you know, when you do have red flags about something that your kids are reading, it's our job to look them up and to find out what it is that is being put in our kids' schools, because we focus so much on the graphic novels and the explicit material, which there is plenty of that needs to be pulled out of schools. We don't think about the ideas that are being put in kids' head by something that is innocent as this, because it looks like the cutest book ever, and it really is. And I love this little kitty-corn, but it's putting the idea in my 6-year-old's head that you can be, just by saying that you're something else or looking in the mirror and seeing something different, you can completely change who you are, and everybody around you has to accept it no matter what. And that's reality. And she may not get that underlying tone from this book, but later, you know, because I know that my kids are going to have friends that are part of the LGBTQ community. I know with as rampant as it is, with as many parents that have transgender kids, that they're going to come across this at some point. And I'm not trying to shield them from it. I'm not trying to shelter it. But when they do come across, you know, that friend that was perhaps a girl last year and is a boy this year, they're going to remember the ideas of this story that says that you can label yourself anything you want, and that completely, you know, that means that that's reality, and that, you know, we should just accept everything and it's totally fine. So they're going to remember the idea presented in this book and how harmless it was between a kitty and a unicorn. And, you know, we just need to be careful about what our kids are reading, because it's not always the most obvious things that are out there that we need to keep an eye on. So I understand that if anybody that has read this book sees this video, they're going to be probably really upset with my take on it. But I am upset about the fact that, you know, there's nothing that I can put in front of my kid without having to censor it first, even as something as simple as this. So that's my take on it. Just keep an eye on these things, you know, and it is your full discretion. I am just giving my take on it. If you want your child to read it, I mean, it's a cute book, but just be aware that that is the underlying goal of this book. And it just came out recently, so I know there's a lot of positive reviews on it, a lot of people that love it. So that is completely up to you. I just wanted to provide my take, and you do you.